They're starting right now. It's officially we're online. So make sure you have your notes. I want you guys to be taking notes. Alicia, you better be taking notes, okay? I know you guys, some of you know this because I taught this last year. But the reason I'm teaching it again is because it's the foundation of everything we're moving into. And what we talked about last year in terms of factoring, that's what we're going to be dealing with this year, but we're going to do it times 10. We're actually going to be learning a tremendous amount of stuff relating to factoring. And you have to understand this because a lot of complex stuff revolves around knowing how to do this really, really well. Some of you already know how to do this really, really well, and some of you don't. Do you have your notes out? So guys, when I ask you to get out your notes, I really mean it, okay? Everybody's notes are out, right? You're taking notes on your computer? Okay. It's really important. Okay. Factor out the greatest common factor. I'm not going to hang out with really easy ones. I mean, I'm going to start fairly simple, and then I'm going to try things a little more complicated so that you guys can get used to them, right? Because how many people did the homework sheet that I handed out that was due, right? And how was that fairly easy? Yeah. Great, awesome, good. I'm glad to hear that. All right, so I think we're going to start here. So I'm going to start fairly simple. 75x to the 10 plus 25x to the 12. And so I'm factoring out a greatest common factor. That means I'm going to actually have something here, and I'm going to multiply it by something inside parentheses. And the question is, what's going to go here? So I've got to look at two things, and I'm going to write down a little format here. The first thing you look at is, you ask yourself, what? First of all, I'm just dealing, well, let me put this up. First thing I'm going to look at is the numbers. Only the numbers. And I'm going to say, what? Yes? Somebody call me? Yes. What? Oh, if you know the answer, sure, that's fine. What is the greatest common factor? All right, what's the greatest common factor between 75 and 25? 25. So I know I could take I could divide this by 25 and I could divide that by 25. So I'm going to put a 25 here. That's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is I look at the variables. And this is key to understand. If the same variable is in each term. You guys remember what terms are? Right? This is a term and this is a term. Terms are separated by pluses and minuses. Remember that? Terms are separated by pluses or minuses. So that's a term. That's a term. All those are doing is multiplying times each other. 25 times x to the 12. It's the plus sign that turns it into a term. That separates the two terms, right? All right, variables. If the same variable is in each term, then factor out variable with smallest exponent. Variables are actually easier than the numbers when you're doing factoring. And it's hard for people to quite grasp that at first usually, but once you get it, it's like so easy. Do they both have x's in it? Both terms? Which one has a smaller exponent? Christian? X to the 10th. So I can immediately write x to the 10th right here. Okay? Now I'm going to start putting my stuff inside the parentheses. So I'm going to 25 times what? There's two ways to do this. You're going to say this times what equals this. Right? Or you can say this divided by this equals this. right? So if you're better at dividing, you can say 75 divided by 25 is 3. Or if you're better at multiplying, you say 25 times what is 75? 25 times 3 is 75. You guys with me? Make sense? So 25 times 3 is 75. I'm going to take, I've got x to the 10th, I'm going to divide it by x to the 10th. I'm basically taking it away, right? So there's nothing there. Right? You guys all see that? Yes?
Well, I don't see it because there's nothing there.
Right, exactly.
That
Plus,
was a really bad joke.
25 divided by 25 is what? 1. So I don't have to write the 1. I can, but I don't have to. If this were x to the 10 and that were x to the 10, I would have to write a 1 here because it'd have to hold a place. But I can. I'll just write it with that. And then x to the 12th divided by x to the 10th. Or another way to think about it, x to the 10th times x to the what is equal to x to the 12th. X to the 10th times x to the x squared, right? X squared, that would equal x to the 12th. So we're done. We don't need this 1. You can have it there if you want, but you can leave it out. So that's pretty basic, right? Those are the 2 things you need to know. First, deal with the greatest common factor of the numbers. Second, deal with the variables. And always, it's always going to be with the variables. The reason why the variables are so easy is you only have 2 options. With the numbers, you have lots of options. You've got to look at all possibilities, right? But with the numbers, with the variables, you either have to choose this or this. You're not going to change it at all. It's one of those 2, and it's always going to be the one with the smallest exponent. That's going to go here. All right, let's do another one. Let's try 20 x to the 4th y squared, and we'll say minus 100. Let's see here. X to the 11, y to the 10th. All right. So again, I'm going to be multiplying something times something inside a parenthesis. And I'm looking for the number that's going to go here. So first thing I do is I look for my greatest common factor in my number, which is 20, right? 20 goes into 20, 20 goes into 100 5 times, right? So I'm going to put a 20 here. I'm going to leave a little space because I know I'm going to have to put x's and y's here. I check here, it says, now I'm going to do my variables. Do they both have x's? All right, which one? So that means right here I'm going to write either x to the 4th or x to the 11th. Those are my only 2 options. Which one am I going to write? X to the 4th, the one with the smaller exponent. So I'm going to write x to the 4th. Now, do they both have y's?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that means I'm either going to write x squared here or x to the 10th. Which one am I going to write? X squared, right? The one with the smallest exponent. X squared.
No, y squared.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Y squared. Okay, so now 20x to the 4th y squared times what is equal to 20x to the 4th y squared?
1.
Yeah, so 1. So I've got to write that 1 in there because it's holding its place. I'm taking all of this out of this, right? This is the same as that number, so I've got to keep a 1 there. Now I've got a minus sign. 100 divided by 20 is 5. So I'm going to put a 5 there. Now I've got x to the 11th divided by x to the 4th. X to the 7th, right? Or another way to think of it is x to the 4th times x to the what equals x to the 11th. 4 plus 7 is 11. So it would be, yes, it would be...
But it's addition, not multiplication.
Yeah, when you're multiplying variables with exponents, you add the exponents, right? Yeah, exactly. And when you divide, you subtract. So you could divide x to the 11 divided by x to the 4th is x to the 11 minus 4, which is x to the 7, right? And then last one is y to the 10 divided by y to the 2 is y to the 10 minus 2, which is y to the 8, right? Good. Awesome. There we go. Now, do we do a really complicated one?
Yes.
We'll do one that's really complicated. All right, let's say we do, that's fine. Let's do 18a squared b to the 8c to the fourth time plus 24a, I don't know, a to the fifth b to the 10th c squared.
Is that a to the a squared at the beginning?
That's a 2, yes, sorry. A squared. Okay, first thing, I know I'm going to have parentheses. And then I know I'm going to have, in fact, I know my parentheses, I need a little more space, I think. I'll just, what is my greatest common factor between 18 and 24? And if you don't know, remember this upside down birthday cake method?
Oh.
I know 3 goes into both of those. 3 goes into 18 6 times, right? 3 goes into 24 8 times. And then I know that 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 8 4 times. Nothing goes into both of these other than 1, so I can't go any further. So my greatest common factor is this times this. 3 times 2, right? So 6. So I know 6. I'm going to have a 6 here. Do they both have a's? Okay, so I can take an a out. Which one can I take out? A squared or a to the fifth?
A squared.
A squared. All right. Do they both have b's?
Wait, why can't it be 3?
Say what? Oh, because you're looking for the greatest common factor, the largest number that goes into both, right? That's important. That's important. All of the factoring we're going to be doing is going to require us to take out the greatest common factor. So okay, and then a squared, that's our smallest a. Our b, which one's smaller? B to the 8? All right. C squared is smaller, right? C squared. So here, 6 times what is 18? 6 times 3, right? And then I have a squared divided by a squared is 1, so they sort of cancel out on this side. B to the 8th, that's 1, the b's cancel out. C, I'm going to have c to the 4th divided by c squared, which is c squared. And then I have my plus sign. 6 times what is 24? 4. A to the 5th, I'm dividing it by a squared. So it's a to the 5 minus 2, or a to the 3. B to the 8 divided by b to the 10 divided by b to the 8 is b squared. And c squared, they cancel out. We're done. That's it. All right? It's not that hard. I had to teach this first because tomorrow we're going to get back into factoring by grouping, which is something we talked about last year, but you need to know it really well this year. You didn't need to know it really well last year. And it's actually easier than this, but you have to understand this first because a lot of factoring by grouping requires you to do this kind of stuff, okay? So that's why I had to teach it first, because I don't want people to be lost. So that's it. That's it for that video. Now I need you guys